All right, ready to go.
All right. Glad to have everyone here, and we are now calling this meeting to order. Our first item is we will have time of public comment. You are given still 5 minutes.
It's up to you.
Okay.
We currently have 20 people signed up to speak.
Oh my goodness. 20 to speak. 2 minutes. Let's make it 2 minutes. Everyone will have 2 minutes to make a comment. We normally allow more time, but we don't usually have as many people commenting. So we'll begin with that. If you will tell us your name, and we will let you have your 2 minutes to speak.
Okay, from the list that I have, and I'm just going down the list of people who signed up in advance. The first person is a Tanya, and I'm not showing her in attendance, so I'm going to skip to the next person that I have on my list, which is Roberta. I do not see her on our list of attendees. So I'm going to skip to the next person, who is Karen. I do not see Karen on our attendee list. So I'm going to skip to the next person, which is Stephen. I do not see Stephen on our list either. We don't have very many speakers.
Is everything working right? Are they able to show up?
As far as I know, we have 28 attendees thus far. Just
okay.
We don't have the attendees that have signed up to speak on here yet.
All right.
The next person that signed up to speak, he too is not here. Found a person. Andrew, let me unmute you. Hi, Andrew. You're unmuted. Hello. If you'd like to make your comments.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm a Cobb County resident and a Cobb County voter. I'm 67 years old. I have an active duty son in the Air Force, and I have a veteran in the Navy as 2 of my 3 sons. I had the distinct pleasure of standing in line in the hot sun for 2.5 hours outside of your Cobb County Board of Elections office, and was not pleased about that, to say the least. I think you all are unfortunately attempting to suppress the vote in a very serious way, and it has resulted in very serious consequences for me as a Cobb County resident, and for the county as a whole, for the state as a whole, and for the nation as a whole. And all in the name of holding on to power. So Cobb County has changed. My congresswoman is Lucy McMath, and I stood in line to vote because I supported her, and I support her deceased child. And for you all to make me stand in line for 2.5 hours, this is early voting, this is late October, for that period of time with skin conditions that include multiple basal cell skin cancers, was very unfortunate. Very unfortunate for, like I say, for you all, for Cobb County, for the state, and for the nation.
Thank you. Your time is up, but thank you for your comments. Who is our next speaker?
The next speaker I have is Harvey, but I'm not seeing him present. So I'm going to skip to the next one. She's not here either. Next one is Betty Jackson. You've been unmuted if you'd like to make your comments.
Good afternoon. I'm calling in regards to this new law that's passed. and I am a Cobb County registered voter. I vote every year. And I feel that this new law is going to impact not just Cobb County and all of Atlanta, but it's going to impact the businesses, as we've already seen. The Major League Baseball has moved the All-Star out of the state. Will Smith has moved his production out of the state. So now you have a county that's growing by leaps and bounds. You're building houses all over the place. People have to go to work. When they go to work, probably have to go into Atlanta. And if the jobs are not there, or if people can't get to the voting place on time, how are you going to account for the monies raised to run the county? So I really think it's unfair that this voter suppression has taken place, and it will directly impact not only the people living here, but the businesses and the taxes. So I really think that this should be looked at in abundance, because people will vote, but they won't vote for people who are trying to suppress them. And I think Cobb County should set the example of saying, hey, we're not going to fold for this voter suppression. Imagine the previous person who's out there 2.5 hours and not having anything to drink or eat and not being able to get anything. I mean,
I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you for your comment. And who is our next speaker?
The next speaker is Eloise. I do not see her present. So I'll move on to the next one. The next speaker is Monica. You've been unmuted now if you'd like to make a comment.
I don't know if you're gonna be able to hear me. I'm on traffic, but
Got you. We hear you. Go ahead.
right. But if I break up, then that's okay. Thank you for the opportunity. I just want to keep reminding our everybody that renters do have a voice. Renters do vote. Renters are a part of Cobb County, and if Cobb County is growing, um, believe there would be more renters that would be in the area as well, because you have Kennesaw State University. So a lot of college students are renting apartments, renting homes, and then also you have people that want to move to Cobb County because of the great schools, but they're not able to become homeowners. So therefore, they're renting longer than they're expected to be doing. So again, I just want to remind you, and also we are doing our part with civic engagement this Sunday. We Thrive at Riverside Rental Association will be hosting a Zoom civic engagement resource connection meeting where we'll inform people about the new SB 202 law that's been passed, but also inform them on how to stay engaged after voting. And so we'll be doing that Sunday at 5 p.m. And then my daughter, she's a part of the Sigma Gamma Rho sorority. They're hosting a panel discussion at 7:30. And so it's going to be a very busy civic engagement opportunity. But I just want to make sure I reference what my daughter's doing, because April is Youth Awareness Month as well, and that's their project that they're doing. So thank you for the opportunity, and continue, and thank you for your service as well.
Thank you, Monica. And our next speaker.
Next speaker is Forrest. I do not see him on. So moving on to the next one. Two. Larry is not here. No. Oh, Althea. Althea, you've been unmuted if you would like to make your comments.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hi, I'm Althea and I live in Powder Springs. And I'm highly disappointed in what happened last time is that my neighbor, who is 69 years old, she stood online for 3 hours with her legs giving trouble. As a result of that, me with a hip replacement and knee replacement, I voted absentee. But I made sure that when I came back and saw how you guys moved around, we had to make calls to make sure that we had these precincts open for early voting, made phone calls. I called my ex-unions and asked them to please call you guys so you could make sure we had places to vote. However, I drove around Cobb County and I noticed that in certain, Cobb County, in certain parts of Cobb County, the lines were extremely short. While over there by that main office, the lines were extremely long. So something is wrong about how you are placing these precincts. And we need to improve the precincts so that people, we are human beings, we pay taxes, we pay high taxes, and we need to be treated like human beings. So really open up some more precincts for us to vote in this short period of time. And number two, I don't know what, I'm disgusted about the fact that the legislators have taken away the power from the Secretary of State. That means some shenanigans is going to take place, and I'm very concerned about that. I don't know what you guys can do about it, but we need to make sure people are in power, that they don't take away our vote after we vote in areas where they're mostly Black and Hispanics.
Thank you for your comments. And our next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Patrice. Patrice, you're unmuted now if you'd like to make your comments.
Yes, yes. Thank you for the opportunity to express my concern about the passage of the new legislation. And I'm not sure what you would be able to do, but my concern is similar to others who have spoken before me about the number of precincts that you opened. I know when my grandson tried to vote in his original precinct, he was directed to a library, it was closed. He was directed to a library nearby, it was closed. And then he had to come all the way across to the library over in North Cobb. Now, fortunately, he's young, he has a car, but he still had to wait in line over an hour and a half. I applied in the general election for an absentee ballot, never received one. And on my application, I asked that I be sent an absentee ballot in perpetuity since I am over 65 years of age. Never received a response, never received the absentee ballot, waited until 3 days before the actual election. And I too then had to go stand in line for over an hour and a half. You have to open up more precincts. If you are shutting down the time frame that people are able to vote, then you have to provide more places for people to vote so they do not have to stand in line. So those are my comments, and I appreciate the opportunity to express them.
Thank you for your comments. And our next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Charles. Charles, you've been unmuted if you'd like to make your comments.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I'm Attorney Charles Ford, and I just moved into Cobb County July of 2019. I've been in Georgia for a little bit over 6 years. And I just got licensed to practice law in Georgia in September of last year. I've been an elected city council member and school board member. So voting is very special, very important. Sorry about that. Very special and very important to me that people have an opportunity to vote. I did visit one voting precinct that for early voting, and the line was wrapped around the building. People had lawn chairs. They wanted to vote. However, I saw a lot of senior citizens, a lot of individuals who had disabilities. And I don't think we're taking those types of things into consideration. We need to open up as many precincts as possible. Early voting is important. I think individuals who have employment, people who have childcare concerns, and also because the amount of time it takes to vote becomes an issue. Not everybody can stand in line because they do have childcare and employment issues. So I'm hoping that Cobb County, because I chose to move into Cobb County because I worked there as a school teacher, as an assistant teacher at Tapp Middle School, and I really want to make it. I wanted to live in Cobb County, and because it's a great county, and I just want to make sure that the voting is fair. We should not be closing precincts. We should be opening them. And please take into consideration that we have people with disability, people of age, just like the one voter who wanted to vote absentee but could not do it, and that person has to stand in line for an hour and a half. I would ask that you open up as many precincts for early voting as possible. And then I went by that same precinct for regular voting, and there was hardly anybody in line. So
Your time is up, I'm sorry. But
I
thank you for your comments, and I appreciate that.
all right,
And who is our
thank you.
next speaker?
Phil,
Yes,
Jessica is in as an attendee and she'd like to be changed to a panelist.
All right. I don't know whether our host heard this or not, but we have a board member who is on as an attendee, and she would like to be able to be on. There she is now, I think.
Just took care of it.
Thank you.
All right, good. Got that taken care of.
So the next speaker is Priscilla. Priscilla, you've been unmuted if you'd like to make your comments.
Hi, my name's Priscilla Smith. I live in Kennesaw, mailing address, City of Marietta. I am a high school graduate from Marietta High School. Have lived in the Cobb County area on and off since I was 6 years old. And I live in House District 34, which is disproportionately white, disproportionately wealthy. On the week of primary voting day, I drove around to my district looking at all the precincts and saw absolutely no issues whatsoever with waiting in line, at all. And then come home, turn on the news, and I see in South Cobb that lines are snaking around buildings and it's taking people a long, long time to vote. Well, that makes me think one thing, doesn't it? Well, why is it so easy for me as a white person living in a wealthy part of town? Why is it easy for me to vote and difficult for people of color to vote? I'd like to bring attention to the fact that for the general election in November, there were inappropriately last-minute closures of precinct polling places and insufficient notification given to voters, so that there's going to be a sign at the place where they were supposed to go vote and nothing more. I know that there were candidates, and I was a candidate, including me. We got on the phone and we made sure that people in the district knew, regardless of whether they were going to vote for me or who, but that they knew where they needed to go to vote if their precinct was closed. Also, for the runoff in January, there are problems with not having enough people to be able to work the polling places. And so we didn't have enough polls open because there were supposedly not enough people willing to work. That's absolutely false. I know for an absolute fact that there were many, many, many people who contacted Cobb Elections saying that they wanted to work, that they were willing to work for early voting during the election.
Thank you for your comments. And our next speaker.
Our next speaker is, make sure I grab the right one. Donna Court, you've been unmuted if you'd like to make your comments.
Donna, go ahead. Don't hear you. She unmuted.
Can you hear?
Yes.
This
Yes.
is Donna Court. I'm a proud Cobb County resident, live in District 2, and I am also in U.S. Congressional District 6 under Lucy McBath. So the 4 buckets I wanted to address, just to get it in the minutes, are regarding the fiscal concerns for the coming elections, the feasibility of doing everything that SB 202 suggests. Number 3, education for the voters with all the changes. And number 4, I am very concerned about the State Board of Elections being able to take over what that criteria would be, because I actually would like to protect you guys. So that being said, I actually want to thank all the Board of Elections for your service and dedication. I think the hours and thought that have to go into this are amazing. And that's as reported on WABE. They even talked about certain counties, including Paulding, getting bomb threats, which is ridiculous. For the fiscal, I don't know how we're going to pay for this, so I'm hoping that there will be some sort of a plan. Feasibility, like some other folks have said, I am very concerned about the votes having to be counted into the wee hours of the morning by people who have been working more than 16 hours and who may themselves have diabetes or hypertension. I think it's inhumane. And we all know the longer you work, the less efficient you get, and it makes you more prone to mistakes. So I'm very concerned. I hope there's some protections put in place to keep the State Board of Elections from taking us over, because I think y'all are doing an amazing job.
Thank you for your comments. And our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Betty Rikiki. Betty, you've been unmuted if you would like to make your comments.
Hello. I was, like a lot of people, upset about SB 202. And one of the things in terms of my looking at the law is that massive polls are going to require hiring more staff, and that there's only 2,000 voters per precinct. So it looks like it actually mandates that there's probably going to be a need for more precincts. The other issue that I'm concerned with is the law now requires that if you're going to be given any water, that only one of the authorized people at the precinct would be able to give water. And I've never seen enough staff to be able to handle that. So that's a concern. I don't know if there's some alternative way of cups of water being off on the side for anyone who needs them. But with our heat and with the number of people that have been showing up now, it seems like that's going to be an issue. We don't want anybody fainting out there. The other thing is regarding staffing. It seems that now, because of all the limitations on the amount of time for absentee ballots and for actually getting the count done within 5 days, that kind of thing, that it's going to require more staff for a more limited amount of time, which is unfortunate, but I don't know if that's going to mean that we're going to have to hire more staff in Cobb County, or
your time is up. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate those.
Mm-hmm.
And now our next speaker is who?
Is Tremont. Tremont, you've been unmuted if you'd like to make your comments.
Go ahead.
Hi, greetings. So I was just wanting to make some comments about the possibility of hopefully that the board is considering Sunday voting. I understand that option is now available. I don't believe Cobb is now, believe we had Sunday voting, early voting yet, but I would definitely, as we're looking at moving into the next couple of election cycles, that we consider Sunday voting for us. I think if we can buy liquor on the day, we can definitely be great citizens on the day. And so I want to place that out there to you. Also, just want to encourage you all to think about how we're going to staff the count after the vote as mandated by the new law. We need to figure out, hopefully you all have a strategy for that. I would love to hear it, but definitely want to start off with the encouragement of an additional day of Sunday voting considered for Cobb County. That is my comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. And who is our next speaker?
Our next speaker is Irvin. Hold on just one second. Irvin, you are unmuted if you'd like to make your comments. Or did you want to make comments?
Get unmuted here.
Go ahead, sir. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, hello, can you hear me?
Hi,
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead, please.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm Irvin Curtis. I'm from Cobb County. I live in Ackworth. And I think we need to make sure that every citizen has a opportunity to vote, and we need those polling stations open up so it's convenient for everyone there. And I also agree with Sunday voting, and I have not seen where there has been a problem getting volunteers who would come out and work the polling stations. I'd be willing to work them myself there. So let's do everything to make sure that everybody has the right, and there are plenty of opportunities to vote there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And next speaker.
The next speaker is Sheila Davis. Sheila, you've been unmuted if you'd like to make your comments. Sheila, did you have comments you wanted to make? Okay, maybe not. All right, or we'll move on to Charles. Just 1 second. Perhaps he's not on here anymore. Hold on just 1 second. Sorry, I was just going through. I have a lot of comments here. I just wanted to make sure. Sheila, let me go back to you again. Sheila, you want to try again? I've unmuted you. We're not hearing your comments. Okay. The next speaker is going to be, I think that may be the last one. I'm unfortunately unable to, I'm able to unmute. I'm gonna try Sheila one more time. Sheila, can you speak? I'm not able, I'm unmuting you, but I'm not hearing your comments. So.
All right.
All right. I believe that was the last one. Not seeing anyone else. I think that's everyone.
Okay.
Somebody has a hand raised.
Somebody has a hand raised. I usually ask them. Nasrullah? I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but you've been unmuted if you'd like to make your comment.
Good afternoon, sir. I do appreciate. I was listening to all of the comment. I've been in Cobb County for 50 years. I never see something like that in 50 years. I teach political science, involved in politics. I'm going to put something on your lap. Thank you very much for what you are doing. My question, I hope you listen to all of those comments, digest it, think about it, do something ethical and moral, which is something right. You have as an individual a moral and ethical, what do we call responsibility to talk to massive voter. You have to sleep on it. You have to think about it. And that's something you may take all of your life with you. That's my comment. I hope what I said, I listened to all of the comment, good comment, great comment. I do appreciate it. Make sure do morally, ethically something right. You don't from later on feel guilty about it. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to see all of you.
Thank you for your comments. Is that our last, or do we have further people?
I don't see anybody else who's made any comments frequently, and I don't see any other hands up. So I believe that's it. That's everyone that's on my list.
All right, thank you. The next item on our agenda is the approval of previous minutes. And we have the minutes of March 8th, 2021. Do we have a motion concerning these minutes?
So moved.
All right, I got a motion from Fred and a second from Pat, okay? Any further discussion or questions or changes on these minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, thank you very much. I don't know where we got Jessica or not, but
She's having trouble with her video, so I don't.
all right, well.
Is that a four vote or a 5 vote?
Jessica, were you voting for it? Can't hear her either. Huh?
She's muted.
All right.
Turn phone.
She's muted by herself or the system muted her?
I'm trying to unmute her, but it's not allowing me to.
Okay.
No, she's got a mute on her end.
Jessica?
All right.
Okay, well, you want me to just put you on speaker? Okay. All right, so we approved the minutes. Jessica, did you vote for or against that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we now have a public hearing about the proposed precinct boundary changes. I understand that these changes, are they all involved because of annexations or are there other reasons?
Yes, and I'd like to vote to take this agenda item.
All right, Bo Dunn, our elections manager here, will then explain this for us.
So these are all annexations within the municipalities of Marietta, Powder Springs, and Smyrna. And of course, last year, we didn't make any of these annexation changes throughout the cycle. This is sort of playing catch up now to prepare for the municipal elections in November. All of these annexations have already been voted on by the municipalities. So what we're doing here is holding a hearing and then voting to make these changes administratively in the voter registration system so that the addresses, the street segments, and any voters that are living there will be assigned to the correct polling location and to the correct districts now with a municipal representative. And so we can go, I can go city by city, I could go road by, or segment by segment in the cities if you'd like. We have a total of 12 voters affected by all of the annexations. So Mr. Chairman, how would you like me to proceed there?
Let's go down the list as we have it on the agenda here, if you will.
Okay. Should we start with Marietta?
That's fine.
And we have 2 property addresses, 1520 Cunningham Road, which will be moving into MR 2B, and then a portion of 1725 Stylesboro Road will be moving into MR 4C, both of which are listed as residential for land use purposes, but currently have no voters on the property.
Okay.
Powder Springs, we have 3441 Powder Springs Road and 3625 Powder Springs Road, both moving into PS2A precincts, both listed as residential. And again, neither of these have voters currently residing on those pieces of property. 4434 Macedonia Road, Powder Springs 3A would be the precinct. This is the only tract of property with voters affected by these annexations. There are 3 there. 3111, 3121, and 3131 Old Lost Mountain Road, all in Powder Springs, moving into the same Powder Springs 3A precinct, all 3 residential with no voters. And then Smyrna, we have a good many here. Smyrna 1A will have Ann Road. The use there is not stated yet. It's vacant, no voters. And then 2320 Campbell Road, residential. Looks like it's proposed development with 292 units, but currently no voters registered there. SN3A precinct, we have 1693 Donna Lynn Drive with 3 voters. There's an existing single-family home there. 2791 Matthews Street, 1 voter. It's a residential home, 2 units. 1221 Pierce Avenue, 1 voter registered there. It's residential. It's going to replace the existing residential structure was the purpose of the annexation. Smyrna 4A has 171 Concord Road. Currently 2 voters residing there. It's residential. Smyrna 6A, 1990 Cooper Lake Drive, 2 voters there. It's residential. Smyrna 7A has 5773 Oakdale Road, 1953 Watkins Road, 1960 Watkins Road, and 2021 Watkins Road. No voters at any of those. The Oakdale Road address is residential. The Watkins Road addresses, all 3 are listed industrial. And those are the annexations that we have presented for currently.
All right.
If any of you have any questions about.
So together, there's gonna be 5 voters affected? 10.
The total of 12, actually.
12
throughout your cities, right?
Okay.
And once the changes are made in the voter registration system, they'll be sent updated precinct cards so that they'll have their new polling location and their new representative districts.
They're gonna be sent.
Correct.
So in the places that, I remember you saying there was one that had, was 200 units? And there's currently no voters there at that, the way, when you described it.
Right.
So what is the plan when and if they do,
So that segment will be generated in the voter registration system and assigned precinct and districts. So as people, once the probably apartments are built, as people register, they'll be registered at this address. The address will automatically send them a precinct card with all that information. If that street segment, this piece of property will be attached to a set of districts.
So with the upcoming municipal elections this year, those that are on here currently, the 12, I think you said, they would be able to vote in those municipal elections.
Correct.
Okay, they get notified about that as well, right?
They will get the precinct card, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
And so there are no further questions from the board. Mr. Chairman, you can open up the public comment for the public hearing. Anyone has any comment to make from the.
All right, we will now open the public hearing on this. If we have any comments concerning these changes. Do we have anybody signed up for that?
No, they specifically just signed up to speak at the meeting. So if you guys have any comments that you want to make on this particular
right. Relating to these changes, yes.
Yes, then just please send me something in the chat and I can unmute you.
There's a hand raised.
There is a hand raised, Tara.
Becky, is that Becky Arrington?
Hello.
Unmuted.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to suggest that as moving forwards, the precinct cards oftentimes are overlooked. It looks like in many cases a piece of junk mail, especially with new elections that people might not have been able to vote for before. Could we also maybe send a letter of explanation along with that? That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Janine, do you have any response to that?
For an annexation, we wouldn't be sending anything special.
Okay, now we would just be sending the cards as normal.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Yes. Any other comments concerning these annexations? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve these changes?
I have a motion.
Me first.
Doesn't matter.
All right.
Make a motion.
We'll have Pat make the motion and you're second, right? Okay. All right. Do we have any discussion among the board members concerning these changes? All right, hearing none, all in favor please raise your hand. Or Jessica can say aye.
Thank you, Jessica.
She approves?
Yeah.
Okay, 5-0. Okay, thank you. All right. The next item that we have is the removal of certain voters on the attached list whose qualifications to be registered have been challenged. I'll let Janine explain this further, but I understand it's because, or Bo, excuse me. And that's because I think of people who have moved, and when they've been mailed notices about it, they have not responded. Is that right, Bo?
Correct. So we have two types of voter challenges here. We have 192 voters that have been mailed correspondence that have been sent back to us as return mail with a address label moved out of state. And then another 49 voters who initially registered, and the only address we had was a PO box, but they had it registered at that address as if it was their residential address, which is not allowed for. So I'm gonna take them kind of in those two batches. We'll go over them all. Of the 192 voters that moved out of state, we mailed a letter to the old Cobb address and then the address that we had from the post office, notifications they moved out of state. So the out of state address, and if there was a mailing address in addition on their voter registration record, we mailed that letter to them as well, asking them to clarify, if this is a mistake, please let us know. And then if not, we had a removal form where they would be able to fill that out and have their name removed from the list. So of the 192, we did have 8 individuals reach back out to us that they are still Cobb voters that we won't be recommending to remove from the list. And if I can go over, I'm going to give you those names of those individuals now. Alessandro Carcasio. Does it have page numbers?
Yeah, that's page
Page number 4 out of 15. So that voter has reached out and they will remain Cobb voters. And on page 5 of 15, we have Sean L. Carter.
Now, I see Chanel Carter is there twice, so you got 2 addresses, right?
Right, don't have been new one. Right, the addresses that we mailed the letters to. So he notified us that that was a temporary out-of-state address, and he had to return to Cobb County.
Okay.
It will be likewise with the rest of the voters and all of them. Page 10 of 15. You will see the Lloyds there, starting with Cameron X. Lloyd, Derek D. Lloyd Jr., Derek D. Lloyd Sr., and Matilda Lloyd. Those can all be removed from the hearing list. And we have one more on page 12 of 15. We got going too fast.
Yeah, we have to move through these pages, and
Yeah.
sometimes they're hard to pull apart. But what's the next page?
12 of 15.
All right. Okay, page 12.
We're looking at Gilbert J. Penaloza.
All right.
So those 8 individuals have reached back out per the letters and confirmed that they are still Cobb County residents and voters. So we want to not include them in any motion to remove them from the voter list. I will say too that leaves 184 that we did not hear back from specifically, but I do have several here that we had the out-of-state letter returning to us as well, and they have since moved within the state that they moved to. So we've got another address there that we don't send a letter to. It's just further confirmation that that voter more than likely has permanently moved out of the state.
All right.
So the other 49 are those PO box voters, and they're page 1 of 15 and 2 of 15. The only address we have for those voters to mail a letter, of which we got no reply. Well, I say that we have one that is moving out of the county. But the only address we had to mail the letter to was the PO box address. And we have not received any phone calls, mails, or email from any of these voters. And I will bring the attention to the board that this would have been the second letter that these individuals had received. The first one being when they first attempted to register at the PO box address as their residential address.
When you say PO box address, that could well include the UPS mailboxes as well, correct?
Yes, sir, it could.
So even though someone with a UPS mailbox may have a physical address there to receive mail, that's not sufficient for voter registration.
Correct. We need a residential address for voter registration.
Can they have their ballots mailed to that address when they request an absentee ballot?
If the mailing address is part of their voter registration record, then they can, yes.
Okay, so when you register to vote, you have to give your residential address, and that's usually your mailing address. But if you have something else as a mailing address, you need to specify it at that time. Is that correct?
You are correct.
Okay, good, thanks.
Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna clarify that.
And so if there's anyone, I'll ask that the chairman open up the public hearing now. If anyone wants to clarify, if anyone on these lists is here to speak, then we can take the information and move forward there. Otherwise, after the public hearing, I would ask that the names minus the 8 individuals that we called out earlier, both be removed from the voter roll.
So they would have to re-register in order to vote, right?
Correct.
Is that classified as an inactive voter or not?
I'm not sure that I understand the question. If they're removed, would it be inactive? Is that?
Yeah, that's right. I know we have some people that are considered inactive voters,
Right.
but they can show up at the polls and vote.
These would be canceled voters. They would need to
So
re-register.
they would have to re-register. That's
And with
what I
all of
wanted
the
to
letters, I'm sorry to speak over you. With all of the letters, we've also sent a new registration form.
Okay. Fine. All right. So we're now open for public hearing on this matter. If you are on this list and you feel like that you should not be and should stay on the voter roll, then please speak up for us and let us know. We've got some hand raised, okay. Now, this is in regards to if your name is on this list. So that's what we're speaking of. So Becky, are you on this list?
Becky, you've been unmuted.
No, that, I don't have my hand raised anymore. That was from the last.
It didn't go down. You didn't unraise it, so we don't know that.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. And Jacqueline,
Yeah, I am not on the list. I had a quick question. I wondered if any of those people on the list had voted either in November or in January, if you had checked that.
Bo?
I don't have that information in front of me. It would be something that we could check.
All right. But now, if they've received a letter, they still had that opportunity to respond, right?
Correct. Everyone.
Why? Got two letters. Okay. Any else? See, we have Lindsay, is that the name?
Hi, yes, I'm not on the list, but I also had a quick comment. I noticed that there are several addresses that have a large number of people on the post office box. The Duncan Drive, the Mars Hill Road in particular stand out. So I'm curious to know if that's something you see a lot, where there's a cluster of addresses, and if there's something going on with those particular, what I assume are apartment complexes. It just seems very odd to me that so many people on this one list come from the same address. Thank you.
Those are actually postal
UPS.
UPS buildings where you have
January.
Okay, so this is like a post office box where it actually has a street address so that it looks like it's not a postal box. But it's a business.
So then they're not apartment buildings and such, okay.
And it could look like an apartment complex initially as the registration forms come in. And we do the very best we can to follow up with those and use all the resources necessary. In this case, it does look like there are a good many, so it was probably one where many people registered and went through the system before we were able to verify that was a business address.
So we need a motion. Okay. Need a motion?
Go ahead.
You got a motion?
Not yet. Go ahead.
Make a motion to take it off.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any further comments from the board?
Could you show that I do have,
Yes, go right ahead, Jessica, we can hear you.
sure, I would like to make sure that Bethany hears your response to where these challenges have been initiated. And I guess the question is whether, in light of other challenges that we've had recently, the question is whether any of these challenges were generated from in major numbers from one person or organization. And I also would like for you to understand what other sources of information you use
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
to challenge.
This is regular list maintenance. We just haven't done it in a while because we've had so many elections and we can't remove people close to an election. But this is where, as Bo said, we have mailed something to a voter and it was returned to us with a yellow sticker from the post office that says a new address. So this is where we mail them a letter asking them if they have moved and if they've moved back to Georgia, to give us some information. And then, so there was no third party involved in that. That's regular list maintenance. The postal box, we learned that was a business through some investigation. And so there was nobody involved in that. This is not a challenge like we've had recently where, a person challenges another person. This is a challenge from the board because we have learned that these people are no longer eligible.
Okay, but this is regular maintenance, and even with the understanding that I think it's one of the commenters said that perhaps the postal service is not reliable, perhaps the notices made. But thank you for sharing.
Certainly.
So we have a motion.
Yeah, we have our motion and have some comments. All right, all in favor of this motion, please raise your hand, or Jessica speak up.
Oh, she's lost again.
All right, that's what, Ford? Is it Ford? Ford, okay, thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Having trouble getting back through to her, huh?
Yeah.
We'll have to go with the 4-0, I guess, unless we get that. We can add it in later. And I'm trying to get back to my, lost my place here on the agenda.
Director of Elections next.
Okay, go ahead, Janine.
So the item that I had on the agenda was that we have gotten contracts back from 3 of our cities to, yes, she says she's dropped, to have us conduct the election in November. And we still haven't heard yet from 2 other cities, and we potentially will have a East Bluffs from the school board. So we will have these come up a couple of times as we get more information from these cities. So today I would like the board to authorize us to conduct the municipal election for Ackworth, Powder Springs, and Kennesaw, and for the chairman to sign the contracts.
So any other cities would just be coming later then, right?
I have information to Austell and Marietta, and they have not yet had their council approve the contract. They're on the agenda for their council to approve it, and then we'll get those as well.
And we haven't heard from Smyrna. I don't believe that's.
Smyrna doesn't have an election this year.
Oh, okay. That takes care of that. All right. All right.
I make a motion to accept those cities that Janine's made the contact with.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand.
Yes, thank you, Jessica.
All right, 5-0.
5-0.
Okay. All right.
Okay, and I did have one other item that Jessica asked me to speak on. If you wouldn't mind passing this down. This is a summary of the discussion that we had with the Board of Commissioners on March 23rd.
Just one
Yes,
sheet?
just one sheet, yes. Mhm. Oh, wait, sorry, it's out. And Jessica, I did email this to you as well.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so Bo and I spoke to the commissioners on the 23rd about some of the issues that that they can resolve for us. As you know, this board handles our policy and procedures. The state election board and the Secretary of State's office directs us on policy and procedures. But there are some things that the commissioners can help us with. And so we spoke to them about some of the things that they can help us with. And briefly, it boiled down to these areas. First of all, the advanced voting facilities. Many of them are county buildings, and yet we have difficulty scheduling them. So we were looking for the commissioners to give us policy or direction as to what is more important, basically. Does an election take precedence over, revenue generating or, scheduling an event for another department, say parks or senior services? They have other programs that are going on that are in conflict with what we are trying to use them for an advanced voting location. So we were asking for the board's direction in that. And we were also looking at issues that we have with staffing, retention, and recruitment of our part-time employees. Our pay rates are all under $10. And so we are looking for some increasing regrading of one position and then increase to the pay rate for a few of the other ones. And as some of our speakers talked about today, there were some cases last year where we were not able to staff the managers that would run an advanced voting location. And yes, we did have a lot of people that wanted to work that were new, sort of off the street workers. But they didn't have the experience necessary to run the entire operation at a satellite location. So where we were lacking was our regular employees that would, and we spoke about this as well in that time, the employees that would be the managers and the assistant managers. So some of our issues are just not being able to recruit anybody at the pay rate that we're giving them. Our seasonal positions, which is where these managers and assistant managers come from, they are at $9.74 an hour. And so we were asking the commissioners to support us in some increases in that. And so they do, conform to our budget. And so it will be up to them whether they would accept some of these suggestions or not. And we're also looking for 5 full-time positions. Oh, I'm sorry, 3 full-time and 2 regular part-time, which are right now we have 26 full-time and 18 part-time who are with us all year long. And so that's our core group. And we're looking for another absentee supervisor so that we can split absentee voting and advanced voting across 2 supervisors. And so we were asking them to approve that in the upcoming budget. That won't be looked at until around July, though I guess is when they approve the 2022 budget. So we put in our requests and we were explaining to the commissioners why we need, more regular staff to help us to manage all the temp agency people and all the part-time people that, come in at the time of when we're really busy. There's just so many people that are working that we need some supervisor people. So that's kind of the brief overview. I did provide the commissioners with this as a one-page summary. And so providing that to you as well. And I have copies of the presentation if anybody would like that as well. It's about 20 slides that just basically gives the same information. Jessica, was there something specific that you wanted to ask about this?
First of all, I want to thank you for honoring my request, because it was just this morning that request from the report that was given to the Board of Commissioners work session. But in addition to seeking the staff funding and direction for Cobb County for establishing those locations that we would ideally have for 3 weeks of advance voting, what outreach has been made to our municipal other lawful entities? I'd say lawful at this point.
In part of our presentation was we had a GIS map of our generally where we place our advanced voting locations. And by and large, most voters in the county were within 5 miles of one of the advanced voting locations, but we had a couple of areas that were not covered. So one of the things we have done is reach out to Kennesaw State University. We currently are occasionally we'll use the Ben Robertson Community Center in Kennesaw, but its location doesn't cover this area that is, these people are not within 5 miles. And the university would be better suited for that. So we're working with them to see if we can't get a location there. And then we have a meeting later this week with the Braves organization, because we have an area in Vinings Cumberland that's not covered. And so we're going to try and see if we can't get something around Truist Park or in the, the Battery area as a location. And with those changes, we really have really good coverage. As you mentioned, we are looking for 3 weeks at every location, and that's always what we go in asking for, but we end up where some of the locations can't do 3 weeks. They can only do a week or a week and a half or 2 weeks. And so when we have that happen, we end up having to reduce other locations to that same week or week and a half, because we get, obviously we get complaints when we have a location available for 3 weeks in one area of the county, but only a week in another area of the county. So we have to make it match. And so we're always working with the least common denominator, really, as, whatever location has the least amount of days, that's usually where we end up having to go with. So that's why we're looking for, support from the commissioners as to what direction they want us to go in.
And there are conversations with some of our municipalities, like I'm thinking specifically with Smyrna and perhaps others for possible locations that might be available.
Yes, we generally speak to Smyrna and Kennesaw, and because we have other county facilities that are near Powder Springs, and actually, I don't think we've talked to Austell. They don't have a big facility.
We're going to talk to them about the community center.
Community center, okay. So some of the, like for instance, upcoming in November, we have the 5 cities that are having an election, but we also have potentially a countywide election for the school board. And so Smyrna, as an instance, they're not having a municipal election, so they're not really interested in hosting us for that one, even though it will be another issue on that as well. You know, with the school issue. So it kind of, you know, we do talk to the cities. We certainly have some that we use a lot, but they're not always available because they have other programs as well, and we don't really have any leverage with them in the same way that we have with the commissioners helping us with this.
Those were the only other, I think, questions that I had right now. I know this is going to be a continuing discussion.
Yes, that's correct. And as we go into the budget process, you know, we'll be working with the commissioners to try and get our budget approval. And then my understanding from Chairwoman Cupid is that she's planning to have the discussion about use of facilities with the other commissioners and come up with a direction.
Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, Janine. Do we have any other comments or questions concerning this?
I don't think there was anything else we needed to talk about.
Well, excuse me, when you're referring to Austell, what about the old thread mill over there? Is that I think the police training facility has moved out of there or in the process of moving out. Would that be available, you think? That's a very large parking area and a building as well.
We can check on that as well, but you did remind me that another area that we're checking with is the Cobb County Police Training Center, which is brand new on East-West Connector.
Mhm.
And
Old BJ's.
yeah, the old BJ's. And, you know, we've got, we're doing some site visits for that one to see how it will work out. They have a nice community room area in there. You know, we talked to Commissioner Sheffield about that and whether people might feel uncomfortable going to a law enforcement building. But she is the one that suggested it. So, you know, we'll have more discussions about it. There's never really a perfect place for various different reasons, but you know, we're trying to get as much coverage as we can, and that's more like an Austell area as well. Mableton Austell.
All right. Some of the comments that we had earlier, I wanted to say a couple of things that hopefully might clear up some things for some people that were some of the comments that they made. They were talking some about the senior citizens and people with disabilities having to wait so long in line. And I don't know if they're aware that we have that policy of senior citizens. What is it, over 75 or what, as far as moving up in line?
Yes, it's at 75 or older, they can go to the front of the line and be worked into.
And disabilities as well, isn't it?
Right, correct.
All right, so, you know, if that's done in early voting as well as on regular voting.
Yes.
So, you know, if you've got disabilities or you're over 75, you don't have to be out there waiting in line that long. I guess you set up a different line for that or something.
Yes.
Okay.
County, but that's all part of the voter education piece. But I would say that the lines are kind of long. It's not any poll worker. It's kind of warming the lines, and there is not signage. And people perhaps don't know if they're not close to the entrances. But yeah, that is something that we need to make sure is communicated to our seniors.
Okay. And we had one lady, I think, said something about didn't get her absentee ballot, so she had to go vote. And I would encourage anybody, if you have problems, I think there has been a change made about when people can apply for an absentee ballot. With the new law, can you mention what that is, Jenny?
The new law says that we can't accept applications before the 78th day prior to the election. And then we can't mail them out until the 29th day, I believe. You know, we're going to get more information as some of this is.
I think there's a change too. Previously, there was a later time that you could apply for an absentee ballot. Now that's been moved out to give more time for us to be able to respond and get a ballot to you.
Right. The deadline to apply for the ballot is 11 days prior to the election. And so if we receive an application after that 11th day, then we can't process it.
All right, so you would have to mail that, if you're mailing it, you would have to mail that application in time for it to get here 11 days before.
Yeah, I would hope people would not mail an application. They can email it.
Okay, yes, you can email applications, and of course, there is a portal available that people can go online when you have access to the internet to be able to order your absentee ballot in that fashion. And I would encourage anybody, if you don't get it or have a problem, please call our office in enough time to be able to get that problem corrected. All right, any other comments? All right, we have our next meeting then scheduled at May the 10th at 4 p.m. That'll be our regular meeting, next regular meeting. And any other board member comments? If none, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, second. Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, we're adjourned. We got, okay, 5 of them. Thank you, appreciate everyone.
Here's your flower money.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.